with the terrorists and not with the Pakistani military establishment.
We do not want to escalate. Our fight was with the terrorists and not with the Pakistani military establishment. Thank you.
Thank you, Air Marshal Bharti. So, ladies and gentlemen, he's outlined operations not only on the night of 6th and 7th of May, when Operation Sindoor commenced, but also on the subsequent night, being well aware and familiar with the congenital and impulsive nature of our adversary, and even though we did attempt to reach out and communicate our compulsions to strike at the heart of terror to my counterpart in the immediate wake of Operation Sindoor, the request was brusquely turned down, with an intimation that a severe response was inevitable and in the offing. We were, of course, prepared. Operations on the 7th and the 8th, Air Marshal Bharti spoken about. On the night of 8th and 9th of May, they flew drones and aircrafts into our airspace all across the borders. They flew drones and made largely unsuccessful attempts to target numerous military infrastructure. Violations on the line of control by Pakistan also commenced yet again and precipitated into fierce arty engagements. The air operations on the night of 8th and 9th of May, I'll yet again request the DG Air Operations to cover.
So I just covered what happened on the night of 7th and 8th. What we found that on the night of 8th and 9th, starting as early as 22:30 hours, our cities had a mass raid of drones, unmanned aerial vehicles, UCAVs, starting right from Srinagar, going down right up to Nalia. It was a mass raid in waves, and it was relentless. However, we were prepared, and our air defense preparedness ensured that there is no damage on ground or to any of the intended targets that the enemy might have planned for. The difference between 7th night and 8th night was that on 7th night, he sent in his Yaha class of UAVs. However, these UAVs can go some distance, they are armed. However, on the 8th, less numbers of armed UCAVs were there or UAVs were there, and more numbers of quadcopters, maybe for surveillance or just for harassment of civilians. This continued till midnight. Our air defense preparedness ensured that there was no damage on the ground, either to the military installations or to the civilians. However, the enemy had yet again shown that he wanted to up the ante and he wanted to fight, and we were up to the task. In a measured and calibrated response, we once again targeted his military installations, which included his SAM sites at Malirkant. This also included his surveillance radar sites. Lahore and close to Gujranwala. These were suitably addressed, and thereafter his drone attacks continued even till morning, which we countered. And during the daytime, there was some respite. Here, I would like to bring out another aspect. What we found was that while the drone attacks were being launched from somewhere close to Lahore, enemy had allowed his civilian aircraft to also continue to fly out of Lahore. Not only his own aircraft, but international passenger aircraft. which
not
is
only
quite
known aircraft, but
insensitive,
international
and we had to
passenger
exercise
aircraft,
extreme caution,
which
even
is
at the
quite
cost of
insensitive, and we had
some
to
tactical
exercise
disadvantage to
extreme
ensure
caution,
that there is
even
no
at the
damage
cost
to
of
any of the civilian aircraft.
some tactical
And
disadvantage.
this was also
to
brought
ensure
out in
that
our
there
press
is
briefing
no damage
during
to any of the civilian aircraft.
during the day.
This was also brought out.
So I will
in
now
our press
hand over to
briefing
my colleague
during
to cover the
during the day.
events of 9th.
So I will now
onwards.
hand over to my colleague to cover the
On land,
events
we
of
also
9th
undertook certain measures such as deployment of air
On
defense
land, we
and
also
electronic
undertook
warfare
certain
assets
measures such
to
as
establish
deployment
an
of air
integrated
defense
grid
and
with the
electronic
Indian Air
warfare
Force,
assets
and I have
to
seen and
establish
heard
an
some of you
integrated
wax
grid
eloquent
with the
about
Indian
the
Air
benefits
Force.
of such an
And I
architecture
have seen and heard
when it
some
comes
of
to
you wax
negating
eloquent
and combating
about
air
the
intrusions.
benefits of such an architecture.
We also carried out
when it comes to
deployment
negating